Waples, Waples, you get to do the introduction.
Hi, my name is Grumpy Dungeon Master Christopher. This is Grumpy Dungeon Master Jay. And then we have Reverend Panda over here. And then we have
Just
Jeffrey
Panda.
Ludwig
Let's go
over
with
here.
Panda.
Yep.
Reverend Panda. And here in the center of all of us, we have a book that we have to go over.
We have officially convened the Council of Grumpy Dungeon Masters.
Indeed.
Unfortunately, the Beer Bandit is not with us, as I'm sure he's probably asleep by now.
Well,
Indeed.
that, and he only wants to comment on Pathfinder-related materials, and this is 5th edition.
That too.
Wah.
So, Panda and Jeffrey, how you guys doing?
Doing well. I'm doing all right.
We had Panda on last week, so I really don't care much about him.
I love you too.
He's doing fine. Yeah, Jeffrey, what have you been playing nowadays?
So I've started running a Shadow of the Demon Lord campaign. I'm really enjoying that system. It's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, I've looked through that. I mentioned a few times on previous podcasts. The one thing I really like about that is the death saves. Rolling a d6 and then having 1 be you're dead, and 2, 3, 4, and 5 being nothing happens, and a 6 means it's a save. I love that little change to the rules. But has it been going well? I mean, you said it was like between 4th and 5th, right?
Yeah, I mean, certainly it's got some of the kind of elegance, mechanical elegance of 5th, but I don't know. I'm not sure that I would necessarily compare it to 4th. It's definitely got more of a much more dangerous feel to it, right? I mean, it's not as gentle on the players as 5th edition is. But my favorite thing about it so far is just kind of the core mechanic of D20 roll modified by boons and banes, which are just extra D6s that get added or subtracted to the roll, which I love how easy that makes it to just abstract kind of any bonuses or penalties you can think of for any reason. It's just, if you've got an advantage from this and an advantage from that and an advantage from something else, well, that's 3 boons, and this one thing's interfering with your concentration, well, that's a bane, and it makes it real easy to kind of translate anything you can think of into that mechanic. So
yeah, it's definitely a system that that when you showed it to me, it looked really cool, and I looked a little bit into it, and we need to break it down one time on a podcast, but that'll be in the future. Today
that's a whole different conversation. So.
I'm definitely up for talking about that one at some point, because I'm having not really looked at this thing at all, but I'm assuming it still runs like D&D, but adding the boons and banes thing, I'm all about that.
Yeah.
So today the council has shown up to talk about Dragonix Deadly Denizens Volume 1.
I still think it's Dragonix's.
Dragonix's?
Or it could be Dragon 9 'S.
Dragonix.
I think this is going to be the next 20 minutes of this podcast.
No, why wouldn't it be Dragonix? It's Dragon X. Literally, it's the spelling.
Sure. Let's go with that.
Dragonix.
Dragonix, got it.
Dragonix. So, Dragon IX is he is a DM.
It's Dragon 9.
Dragon 9.
Yeah. Dragon 9 'S. Deadly It's called Deadly Denizens.
So
there you go. DDD.
Dragonix is an author on DM's Guild, and I would have to say that hands down, he is probably the most successful author on DM's Guild.
Wow.
He has a number of products that are all adamantine metal level selling. That means he sold over 10,000 copies of each of the products. Most of his products are actually, you can order them and actually get a hardcover or softcover print on demand for them. And you only reach that status is like if you sold over 10,000 or more. He's mainly known for the Monster Manual Expanded series on DM's Guild, which pretty much just takes the base Monster Manual, expands it to add more variations of the monsters and add more monsters altogether. And then on top of that, he has a Roll20 compendium that imports in all the monsters directly into Roll20 for you. And I believe there's a Fantasy Grounds version of it as well. He has character options that are platinum, best-selling talent options that are Mithril more. This guy is, I'm not joking, I honestly believe he is the best-selling author on DM's Guild. I don't know if he has any other published works, but straight from DM's Guild standpoint alone, he's probably sold more than every other author in DM's Guild put together.
Got it. He's right. He's where you want to be.
Yeah, honestly, yeah, fair enough. Yeah, he's where I want to be. And the Deadly Denizens Volume 1 is his newest work that he just put out about a couple weeks ago at the beginning of July. And I just happened to randomly win a copy of it, and I spoke with him. English is not his native language, so he didn't want to join us on the podcast, but he said that I could convene the council, and we could all talk about it together, what we like and what we don't like, and he'll give it a listen.
Awesome.
So before we jump into this, I do have a quick story that I have to get off my chest. It happened to me just this week, and not only did it break a personal record, but it probably is the grumpiest I've been as a dungeon master in all of 5th edition. So I've been playing through Keys from the Golden Vault, looking very forward to getting to the Fire and Darkness module. That's the clue that Jeffrey wrote that one, guys.
Yeah, you'll have to let me know how that turns out. I'll be eager to hear.
So I got to a section called it was Veterans Vault is the one that we were on. And Veterans Vault is pretty much you have to break into Uncle Scrooge's money bin and steal a specific diadem from the thief, and you could have all the other treasures that are in there. It's full of guards, it's full of traps. It's two levels, so it's relatively short, but it's straight up. It's Scrooge's Uncle Scrooge's money bin. So there's just tons of traps everywhere. They're all deadly. They'll all kill you. And you're supposed to basically spend a lot of. Yes, you do. Actually,
awesome.
there is animated armors in there, which is essentially Gizmoduck. So yeah. Well, actually, there were Helmed Horrors, but 6 in 1, I guess. So, I'm playing this with Adventures League, and I show up on Wednesday, and I have 10 people at my table.
That's a lot of people.
That breaks the record for 9. I know Panda's had more or something like that.
I've had 13 before, and it's too many.
17.
Ooh,
17 was my record game.
So this is a record game for me. I had 10, and it was horrible.
10's too
So
much.
the idea though is that you're supposed to investigate some of the guards when they're off work, speak to previous guards, get an idea of the layout of the money bin, and then plan an attack. You're supposed to scope out the bin for a little while, and then basically break in through the front door or whatever other entrance you may or may not find, get through the sections, find the diadem, make a deal maybe with the elf assassin that owns the place, and leave. So with the 10 people at the table, I actually commented that first and foremost is that the one player that's been looking forward to playing this entire Keys from the Golden Vault setting, who built pretty much a changeling person that's supposed to kind of sneak their way and converse their way and get through all the talking encounters with relative ease, didn't show up that night. And I mentioned very loudly that I really wish that they were here because there's a lot of talking involved. That was the first context clue for the 10 people not to attack the vault blindly. After going around the table and listening to what people are doing, some people are at the bar drinking, the barbarians, there's 4 of them. they're just having a grand old time. Some guards are showing up, and they're trying to deal with them, but they're just starting bar fights with the
Did
guards.
I just hear you right? There were 4 barbarians in the group?
There were 4 barbarians in the group, yes. So,
Continue on with your catastrophe.
2 people who had investigation and perception and pretty good scores decided to scope out the vault. And they're doing so from a nice distance away so they don't get caught or anything like that. And ultimately, they were able to get 1 day's worth of watching the vault before the barbarians got mad that one of the guards wouldn't talk to them. And after they assaulted the guard and chased it to the vault, they decided the best thing to do would be kick in the front door and kill everybody on the inside.
And die.
So right now the
Gotcha.
party is split. We have, I believe it was 6 people at the front door for them barbarians, and then 3 people or 4 people off to the side. They still hadn't gone in yet. So I had one piece of information that I had given to the 4 that were investigating is they counted at least 30 guards. Now, in the book, there's 20 veterans. I said 30 because I figured 10 people can kill 30 veterans. I should have basically put 5 veterans per person, which is what I think the balance should have been, because there's 20, so there's 5 veterans per person in the group, and you're supposed to fight them individually on your way through or avoid them altogether. There's a lot of ways to avoid them altogether.
Sounds god awful. Continue on.
So the 6 started fighting, and I had one of the guards pull out essentially a sending stone and saying in there, "Alert, alert, alert, the vault is under attack," and had an audible alarm sound. And that was, again, me trying to plead to the characters that, hey, you don't want to do this. You need to sneak your way through this place. There are too many traps inside, and with the guards attacking you while you're doing the traps, you're going to die. Well, my fear was unfounded because they didn't even get that far. So what then turned out to happen was 3 hours of 4 barbarians plus 1 monk plus 1 wizard trying to beat their way through the lobby of Scrooge's Money Bin. Pretty much every round I spawned 2 more veterans, and they couldn't keep up with the veterans to kind of knock them down. So we get a couple rounds in, they're kind of beat up, but the guards are kind of beat up. The other guys that were watching finally show up but they're kind of hanging back, trying to see what's going on still. The wizard decided to fireball everybody, killing a bunch of veterans, but also hurting his party quite a bit. The elf assassin showed up. She has an ability where she teleports straight to the vault and brings 2 of her helmed horrors with her. So the group that was far away basically can see her doing that, and basically in a very smart attempt to basically stop her from jumping the ledge and murdering the shit out of everybody, they summon a greater demon up there with her. So it's her 2 helmed horrors, and 2 of her guards. The paladin that was with that group that was far away decided to basically start taking all those turns just to run straight up to where the balcony is and engage up there. The cleric that was distant was trying to run over to the barbarians to help heal them. The guards that were on the balcony, they went down and attacked the cleric. The paladin climbed up to the balcony and engaged with the elf assassin. The elf assassin one-rounded the greater demon. Just the demon that the player chose was not immune to poison damage. So of like the 4 that he could choose from, he chose the one that's not immune to poison damage.
The Balrog?
I don't. No, it was something else.
It would not have been a Balrog.
No, Balrog. Not Balrog. Balrog is not the name I was thinking of. What's the D one?
The giant. Yeah.
But yeah, Baragura.
You know what I was
it wasn't that
to.
one. It was a. I can find it here real quick. When I find all the monsters. And it was a.
And this is an Adventure League adventure?
Yeah, I'm guessing they were obviously at least 5th level if they threw a fireball. What level?
They were 7th level.
Okay.
But this was Adventurers League.
Well, yeah. Adventures League basically has just said run the hardcover books. and they've given up
Right.
on.
Yeah, they don't actually give you anything anymore. It's just here, run the stuff we already printed.
I've been out of the loop on Adventures League for a number of years now since they changed. Actually, I quit when they switched to getting not using experience points anymore. I just didn't like a lot of the other changes at the same time. But there's still a lot of rules and regulations on how to run Adventures League.
Yeah,
And
that's
like
true.
what you can and can't do. That's what I was asking. Is this like official Adventures League?
This is official Adventures League because official Adventures League is hardcover books now. It was a Tanaruk, Tanarukk.
All right.
Okay, so they pulled like an obscure one out of their butts.
Yeah. So
Okay.
it's cool. It has a reaction to hit you. It has, basically the orc aggression where it can run as a bonus action, and it's got a great sword and a bite. It's pretty beefy. But the rogue that does basically, I think it was 9d6 in piercing and / poison damage every attack. Just utterly murdered the thing. So eventually, what ended up happening is that the barbarians that were in the lobby, I gave them so many rounds. They had killed 10 veterans by this point, and I had another 10 veterans in the lobby still fighting them. It was obvious it was time to run away, but for some reason they didn't.
Told you,
And
players don't run, man.
They decided the best course of action was to fight to the last man, and that is indeed what they did. The paladin decided to engage with the big bad, the elf assassin, and the elf assassin killed him pretty easily. The veterans kind of overwhelmed the barbarians, even with their rage resistance, and eventually just started blowing everybody because you're attacking the vault. Why wouldn't they?
That's what they're paid to do.
That's what they're paid to do. And eventually, though, one barbarian did run away, and the goblin that summoned the demon, and he summoned a bunch of dredges as well too. He just cast invisibility on himself and ran away. And 3 hours, that one combat.
Okay.
At the end, I had some of the 20 veterans. I killed 8 players. 10 veterans are dead. And the elf assassin didn't take any damage. It was one of the most difficult things I've had to run in a long time.
You have succeeded. You have managed to kill 8 characters in one game session. Good work.
Do I get a gold star for that, or do
yes.
I get like a frowny emoji?
Yes. Now you actually get to start running Dungeon Crawl Classics.
Yeah, that's like the red badge of courage for DMs right there.
You've joined it. You've made it to the top.
So
Okay.
I feel really bad too because the paladin that got basically one rounded by the big bad. I had never seen him before. He brought in his character from a different Adventure League group, and he basically just was like, "Yeah, this is gonna be great. I love playing Adventures League. I'm glad I'm here." Runs up, does a double move. This is only action the entire 3-hour session we had was a double move to the big bad, and the big bad going, "No, stab, you're dead." All right, move on. So
Okay.
I felt real bad for him, but
Couple questions,
yeah,
because this is what I do. I'm kind of a schmuck. Couple questions.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, come on, we all know this. So it'd be only because I don't know how Adventures League is mostly run these days. It's a hardcover. Is it actually designed to be able to scale to 10 players?
I don't think anything scales to 10. Adventure League, they say don't run a group over 6 players. That's their only rule right now.
Right. So it wasn't an official game then because you were running 10 players.
No, you can run 10 players. It says that they don't advise over 6.
Oh wow, okay. Because when I was in Adventures League, you were not allowed to run an official game with that many players.
No,
They
they've pretty much
just not allowed.
Yeah, they've pretty much taken away all the rules.
Okay, well that's stupid. Second, did everybody have fun?
I believe so. Everyone told me they had fun and said they enjoyed it. One person was very upset that I killed the monk, and they were like, "Well, I can't res them." once they're dead forever. I'm like, no, you can spend gold. You have gold. You can bring it back. He's like, no, resurrection doesn't exist in my mind, so it's not going to happen in my games. I'm like, that's your call. I'm not going to fight you on this one. I'm
that
exhausted.
has nothing to do with you. That's whatever.
Keep your strange religion to yourself.
Like your character lives in a world where you can come back from the dead very consistently. Didn't you watch the movie?
Even then, they made that way too hard.
Yeah.
Any high-level cleric could bring back your wife.
Well, no, well, I have to look at the
Whatever.
rules.
Anyway.
Any other questions
Okay.
to grill me
So,
with? Okay.
I think no other questions. I think the only thing I would say is having run giant ass games like that myself and knowing how much of a ball ache it is. The only thing I would say if you run into that sort of situation again, rather than sending a horde of veterans, I might have just made them more badass and done less.
I didn't want to fudge any of the stats of the monsters, especially in Adventures League. I try to run them straight to the book as possible. So even if I were to not have increased the number in the module, which is just 20, there's 20 in the vault. They still didn't get to the point where they were killing. They hadn't killed up to 20. They killed 10 veterans in total.
Right, but when you increase the amount of that they have to fight, that damage output is going to become increasingly impossible to deal with.
Mm-hmm.
Like, as it is, every single time you're putting one in, it's not the hit points that they have to go through that's the problem. It's that every single veteran is like an extra, what is it? They get 3 attacks in a round?
3 attacks, 2 long sword, 1 short sword.
Right, so they're throwing out an extra, 16, 20, 25 damage every single round.
I only had 10 minis that I was using for the veterans, and I only had 10 out at a time.
But then, it's still bodies they have to go through.
Yeah, when they killed 2 showed back up.
Oh, I'm definitely gonna stand with Chris on this one, or with Waples on this one, simply for the fact that they were told multiple times not to do what they did.
No. I'm not saying you should have had mercy on them. That's not what I'm saying.
I'm just saying if they're gonna go in and do something incredibly, if they're gonna do something incredibly stupid, just make it harder and harder for them.
No. I'm fine. I just would have made it harder in a different way. I think we all know that the 5e CR system is kerfuffled.
Yeah,
we're all aware that it's horrible. But if you ever play with their encounter builder, when you increase quantity, it gets stupid.
Oh yeah,
like how much you have to multiply it by. That's what I was just saying. That maybe just selecting harder monsters of a regular amount might have been an easier way to go. Like throw some knights at them instead of veterans.
Yeah, I just didn't want to change anything from the book. I just wanted.
But you were doing that anyway.
Not really. The only thing I did is just increase the number of them.
That's a big change.
But they didn't even get to that extra amount.
Yeah, it's too bad. They could have had a real cool, like Ocean's 11 sort of adventure, and instead they fudged it all up.
So here's the question: should I run it again next week?
No.
Or no? Just skip it all together. Go on to the next one.
Yeah, move on with your life.
Right.
Yep, they failed that one. Try it again.
They failed that one. All right. Any final comments to the chaos that I dropped upon my players in Adventures League?
Get an extra DM so you can split the table next time.
I actually asked that if they wanted to do that, and everyone's like, no. I was like, okay.
No, they don't. They shouldn't get a choice in that. You should make that choice.
Yeah.
Running 10 players is too much. It should have been a table of 5 and 5 or 5 and 4 and another person GMing.
Yep.
I agree, but
because that's just too many.
The players didn't want that. All right, so let's focus on what we wanted, what we came here for, what the council's here for. Dragon 9's bestiary of dangerous Denizens.
You're not allowed anymore. Just no. It's Dragonix or Dragonix or whatever. It's Deadly Denizens Volume 1.
I thought it was the Pokemon Onyx in drag.
Maybe.
You put a little wig on it. It's great.
As we dive into this thing, I'm going to start us off on this. If you scroll down right above where the table of contents is at, and it's talking about all the people that were, the credits and everything, but it has the on the cover, and it's talking about the cover artwork. And it says featured on the cover is the fearsome Teju Jaguar, and I hope I didn't mispronounce that because I'm sure I'm going to, from Guarani mythology, battling it out with my current campaign players. This incredible piece was painted by the gifted Russell Marks, who has a knack of making creatures come alive. You'll see a lot more of his amazing artwork inside. I'm already a fan of how this is starting out because it's literally pulling from a mythology that's out there that I personally know nothing at all about. And it's it's bringing a creature from that mythology. It's giving it stats, and I know they do that with a lot of the stuff throughout here. Obviously, with like obviously there's giants and demons and devils and dragons, etc. But it's pulling from some that are a bit more obscure than all the European mythos that we know.
But it's also not purely the Gawaiian mythology either.
No, it's an assortment of different mythologies they pull from.
Yeah.
I mean, only because I know one of the ones that I looked at extensively. Because I can't look at every single monster extensively, but one of the ones that I did that caught my eye was Myth the Destroyer. Because I love Egyptian mythology. So I saw that and I was like, oh, is there more Egyptian stuff? And I went hunting for it. And I was like, damn it. I was hoping they'd at least have Amit and Sobek. There's no Sobek.
Yeah, I see one called Kumiho in the table of contents that's probably Japanese. Mothfeed. Is that Mothman?
Go look at the art for that one. It's definitely Japanese.
Okay. I have not looked at all of them I haven't had nearly enough time to go through every single thing on here.
It's a 9-tailed white haired girl.
Yeah, okay.
it's Japanese.
Also scrolling through here, I love that he has an entire section labeled oozes. Because as everybody knows, oozes are my favorites.
Oh, they're so good, yeah. Good stuff. My first big prop for this book is that I love the art. I'm not going to say that every single piece is going to be drop dead amazing, but on the whole, I'd say 95% of the art in this book is amazing, which is better than any D&D book has succeeded at in quite a while. It's just straight up dope looking. And some of them one of my favorites is a really basic one, which was the Desert Drake, because it just looks like a scaled up, more badass looking Drake with like a brown sort of like almost looks like it's like they're more hardened scales. Looks like it's wearing plate mail, and it just has a great look to it. Yeah.
Now he did license, or he used a number of different artists for this book. So it's some of the art's it is what it is. Some of it's fantastic. All of it in general is quite good. It's at least on par with every other D&D book I've seen.
Sure,
at least. I'll say, there's a lot of great monster art in there. Actually, a lot of my favorite pieces are all the landscape arts that get sprinkled in as well.
Yep.
So I guess what I want to start with is just the bestiary in general. More the tables of contents, just kind of going over what's in there. So essentially, his book is made up of a lot of monsters of different types. So like I'm not going to read through everything in the bestiary, but like there's abyssal creatures, there's the giant kin, there's devils, there's fiendish dragons, drakes, half dragons, jack-o'-lantern, and infernal creatures, and he has different variants for each of them. So like he'll have like for the oozes for Jay here, he's got your base magma ooze, and then he has an enormous magma ooze, and then he has a monstrous magma ooze. So he gives you 3 different variants for pretty much every monster in the book. So you
Rock
can
on.
scale it to your party's
Yeah,
level.
I knew you were going to talk about that because you loved when they did that in 4th edition, and honestly, I'm
Yeah.
a big fan of it as well.
The only difference between this and 4th edition is that with fourth edition, the monsters were very different. Like you did have like your goblin and your goblin boss, and then like your goblin CEO,
Yeah.
But they also had a lot of extra, just kind of like variants in the monster type. So it is cool that they have the different levels here. I don't think he needed 3 for all of them. Like for some of these, you just needed a base version and a bigger version. But what I liked about what he added in here is he gave you the template that he used to make those creatures and how he
Yes.
scaled them up. And I think that's the important piece. Like he could have just not given me any monsters in this book and just provided me the templates, and I would have been super satisfied with them. So running through the abyssal templates, the abyssal creatures, and the abyssal template that he used, he basically said that any beast, dragon, humanoid, giant, or monstrosity can become an abyssal creature. He basically tells you how the race and alignment would change when you apply this template. The armor class would increase by 1. Their abilities and strength, constitution, wisdom, and charisma go up by 2. Saving throws, depending on the CR of the monster that you're upgrading, changes, and he provides the information for that. He provides changes for their senses, depending on their CR. He gives whatever additional languages they may or may not need. Some of it's depending on the creature's end score, and he provides all that data for you. And then he goes into resistances and other characteristics that would also apply for that template. So you could take his template and apply it to goblins if you wanted to. And now you have abyssal goblins. And
Yep.
they all have the same feel and whatnot. And I kind of did that with the Owl campaign that I was working on, because I kind of took the Shadow Dragon template and applied it to kobolds. But the way he did it here, the way he situated everything, just seems like a much better way of moving forward, creating custom monsters. And then on top of that, he added a lot of lore for each of the creatures too. Like the first monster here for the Chimera, he's got like 6 paragraphs worth of data that he added in. And on top of that, it also provides more information as the bigger the monsters get. So like here's the base monster and the lore for it, and here's some additional information for the bigger guy. And for all the biggest guys, a lot of them have lair actions tied into that. So the Lamia here, basically, if you have the Monarch, here's the Monarch's lair actions that you can use as well. So apply the Abyssal package to the Lamia, and then here's the lair actions that they can use on top of that. And I really think like that is the best core part of this book that makes it really, really, really good.
Oh yeah. So I would like to ask. Sorry, Jay. Go ahead.
No, I was. Go ahead. I'm waiting on you.
So all right, Waples. If you could pick 2 monsters that stood out more, that were really like caught your eye, what should those be?
So the 2 that I liked a lot, one was the Grendel, which
Yes.
reminded me a lot of the trolls from David the Gnome.
Mm-hmm.
You remember that cartoon? Like that was my first introduction with trolls. They're kind of like the Lord of the Rings trolls. When it's daylight outside, they turn to stone. When it's night, they're fine. So the Grendels kind of reminded me of that. I like their feel. He has the 3 levels there too. He has the normal Grendel, a berserker, and a chieftain.
Mm-hmm.
The one downside is they did have the better values. The math is put there for you, but there really isn't, like I said before, a lot of variance between the 2. Like between the Grendel and the berserker, he gets a fling ability and a war cry. Okay, that kind of makes sense. But the stats go up a little bit. Okay. The chieftain, he still just has fling and legendary actions, So the variance isn't too great. I mean, they're pretty much all the same monster. I would like to see a little bit more variation with that, but overall, I was happy with that. And the other one, I have to find it. It was I believe it was a crab. Was it a monstrosity? Give me a second.
Yeah, well, while he's looking that up, yeah, like the Grindal is an interesting one. I like the one right below it, the hag head creeper.
Oh God, yeah.
It's just
Points to whoever came up with that.
just
horrifying.
creepy.
So for the people who aren't seeing what we're looking at, it's literally a giant white frog, possibly made of stone, and the top of its head, like the top of its body, is literally a hag's head. It is such a weird design, and if I ever run 5e, I will definitely use the stats. I may just throw. I'm running Pathfinder now, so I might just make sort of transfer these stats over there and run it there, because that's just weird looking.
Oh yeah, that's something out of like Studio Ghibli.
Yeah, that's something you would see out of Studio Ghibli for sure.
It is very Japanese horror-esque.
Yeah.
So I'm sorry, it wasn't a crab, but it's a crab-like monster. It's actually the Dunghill Golem.
Oh yeah.
So there's in fourth edition and the Monsters in an Intervale, there was a group of Warforged, and there was one thing called the Corpse Collector, and essentially what it was a giant Warforged, or a large Warforged construct that kind of walked around a battlefield and just stuffed dead people to it, and basically ate all the metal and kind of got bigger and bigger and bigger. So it's just giant corpse mound walking around. And so when I saw this golem, this Dunghill Golem, which looks like a crab that just has like a bunch of just like metal scrapped around it, and it's got giant claws, and it has this kind of like breath attack that goes to it, this horrific stench that comes off of it because it's a dung beetle essentially. I just like those two to me will go together perfectly. Like this corpse collector walking around collecting corpses and sticking on its back, and this dunghill thing just creating just a giant pile of mess to live in as well, and kind of both existing on a battlefield once all the people are dead or rotted and whatnot. And that one really just stuck out to me on top of the Grendel. I know they're both G's, but there are so many monsters in this that are just fantastic.
Sure.
The Tarasca too. That's just basically that's a kaiju out of Monster Island.
It looks like he's straight from Naruto.
he's the one-tailed beast. Yeah,
he kind of looks like it, doesn't he? With you just add the turtle shell.
Yeah. Jeffrey, what are your favorite monsters that you found in this one?
Oh, so I liked the Gourlings, which are basically kind of like beastmen, from Warhammer, if you're familiar with those, right?
Yeah.
These kind of humanoids, with bovine or goat-like features, but it just I've felt their lack from the D&D monster roster keenly, and actually in my current campaign in Shadow of the Demon Lord, beastmen are the main adversaries, and I've been 3D printing a bunch of beastmen minis because none of my D&D sets have minis like that, right? So
Yeah.
I was very excited to see that there are a bunch of stat blocks for them in here, and those. This is one monster. Waples, going back to your comments, where rather than just having kind of the three iterations or variations on the same stat block, it actually kind of gives a whole slew of different types. So you've got the Gourling Berserker and Priest and Scout and Shaman, so.
Yeah, they're definitely the most complete like monster block that I would love to see.
Although if anybody tells me that main Gourling on the very start isn't just straight up Beastman from He-Man. They're lying to themselves. That's Beastman from He-Man, straight up. It's the same outfit. It's everything.
Yeah, he does have the strapped across chest piece
And the loincloth, yeah.
and the loincloth. They definitely took inspiration from Beastman for sure.
They added horns. That's otherwise this is a Beastman picture.
Yeah, the color's a little different, but yeah, it's hard to argue that's not him.
That's pretty close.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it looks dope.
My other favorite would have to go to the Krampus demon.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
If only for that artwork. The hideous, tongue lolling out of its mouth, and the crying, wailing children in a wicker cage on his back. It's wonderfully nasty.
So I have run a Christmas one shot. One before Waples had written one. I've run one that had its own artwork for the Krampus, and then Waples wrote one and attached some artwork that had its own artwork. And then there's this one, and this is by far the best Krampus artwork of all of them.
Yeah, it really is.
It's
quite fantastic.
Like I said, I will say that at first I literally scrolled right past Krampus. I think because I've seen so many Krampus stat blocks. I was like, nope, I don't need to see this again. But that art is freaking amazing. That is a dope picture.
Yep. And I'm sad I don't know exactly who the artist for that one is.
So who did Krampus better, me or this guy?
This guy.
I haven't even. I honestly haven't even looked at the stat blocks. I just stared at the picture.
But instead of Krampus being a figure, Krampus is a devil type.
Yeah.
Because it's very different.
They have Krampus, the Krampus Elder, and then Krampus Lord.
So, I gotta say that is one. We've obviously been singing praises so far. One of the downsides that I have noticed is that yes, they've taken things from a lot of different mythologies, but I think sometimes the need to take what is a singular monstrous entity from a mythology or from whatever else and then turn it into like a full-on race was not needed. I thought that was it was too much. You can then build just a demon or a devil lord and just be done with it. You could just made Krampus. You could just, this actually goes back to something that I think this was on the podcast already, to Amit the Devourer. Again, Amit the Devourer is a powerful Egyptian mythological goddess. And you want to turn her into a demon lord? Great, fine, no problem. But it didn't need to be a race.
Yeah.
Like, you could just stop there.
I don't know. I'm going to push back on that a little bit just because it's very in keeping with the history of D&D monsters. I mean, half of the monsters in the classic monster manual, they did the same thing. The Hydra, the Gorgon. These are all singular creatures in mythology. That then get built out into whole, phylogenies of the D&D canon.
Fair, but at the same time, once again, if you're speaking about something that is, a high-level entity, there isn't Baphomet the Lesser, Baphomet the Greater, Baphomet the, Berserker. There's Baphomet. That's it.
Yeah, but
you don't need more than one. You have Baphomet. And then you have all of his underlings.
When you get to something like Medusa, like at one point in time, Medusa was a really standout monster and in Greek mythology. Like, it was the top end when it came to just horrific monsters that you have to go fight and kill with the power that could stop. Was it a Titan that it stopped? I can't remember. When what's his face cut off her head and brought it, and
basically a demigod, the Kraken.
Yeah. So I mean, expanding upon Medusa, now that we've had 4,000 years of power creep, is understandable. It kind of makes sense. Now you've gone from Medusa being this near unkillable demigod type creature to you're just standard monster in D&D.
So you've
And
already got
Cthulhu
that
is the next-
backwards.
Cthulhu
Coordinates
is my
are monsters,
right.
Medusa is an entity.
Fair enough. But
She is a
Cthulhu,
Gorgon.
everyone wants to give Cthulhu a stat block and beat it and fight it. And it's only a matter of time before we get basically on this whole variant of just Cthulhu type monsters that you could beat. And they're kind of already a series of Lovecraftian monsters like that. But I just feel like it's ultimately that's what happens to everything. You know, like looking at the Moth Fiend. Okay, cool. You have the Mothman. All right, well now we're going to start moving into Moth Fiend type races, and now we're going to have greater Moth Fiends and lesser Moth Fiends, and
But there's
maybe-
only one Mothman.
but there's only one Mothman,
And he's in Fallout.
I mean, that's going to happen. I think.
I don't know.
Like people want to fight these things. This is a fantasy game, you know. They're gonna make it and they're gonna run with it. If you don't want to do it that way in your game, don't do it that way in your game.
Right.
I think you're just upset that they gave Poe a bunch of family members to work with in Kung Fu Panda when he was better when he was just a loner.
He was better by himself.
What the hell are you talking about?
Kung Fu Panda. He is noodle folk.
As the Reverend Panda, I do not recognize Poe and his fake kung fu.
It's the best Jack Black movie out there.
Hey now.
No. Good thing.
So
So,
I think it might also be worth mentioning for context, getting back to Deadly Denizens here. My understanding is that this book actually is a compilation of posts that Dragonix released to his patrons on Patreon.
Mhm.
And so I think
Patrons?
that maybe...
Sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I think that maybe provides a little, context as well for, why every single creature in here is kind of built out with multiple variations and whatnot, because I think that was kind of the format that he presented as like, okay, each week or month, or I don't know how often he releases this stuff, right? Like, I'm going to release a set of monsters and they will all, have multiple versions for you to use and whatnot, right? And so I think we're seeing maybe a little bit more of a formulaic treatment of monsters in this book than in some of his previous books because of that context.
And that's fair. I mean, that's a great way of making content, though, too. You set up a Patreon, put out a monster a week, a monster a month, whatever it may be, and then turn around and publish it all in DM's Guild. That's actually kind of a fantastic idea.
Yeah. And I mean, honestly, it would not be hard to do one a day if that's all you're doing. If that's your job, do 5 of these a week or whatever.
Yeah, because doing a dungeon room a day sure did work out for us, Jay, right?
Some of us are ADD. Other people are not.
I wasn't involved. This is my fault. Not my fault.
No, you had nothing to do with it. It was a thing that I'd come across earlier in the year. The goal was to try to make 1 dungeon room a day. I think I made it about 14 days or so in total.
That's a tiny dungeon.
Yeah, it kind of fell by the wayside, as things do with me.
So, Jay,
But Jay, what are
favorites
your
of monsters?
monsters?
Oh,
Yeah.
my favorite? Definitely Mothman, because it's Mothman. Like, I don't really need to say much more about that. If they had Batboy in here, that would be my favorite.
They do.
No, they don't.
That's a Viro, the Vricolaus.
Sure.
That's the package. That's the template that you attach to any monster to make it a vampire.
Holy cow! That Owlbear Vicrolacus?
Uh-huh.
Holy shit!
Yeah, but that's not Batboy.
Yeah, it's about Owlbear. That's man bat
It's
Owlbear.
man bat owlbear.
Yeah, pretty much.
Greatest threat the world's ever known. My other favorite is the jack-o'-lanterns, just because I don't know, I'm a goth kid. I love horror stuff like that, and Scarecrows are some of my favorite enemies to use. So now I have a gaggle of jack-o'-lanterns to use now. That's what they're called in a group, is a gaggle.
I've actually used a monster
Really?
very much like this one already. And one of the first adventures that I actually wrote, where it was a wizard was attempting to basically make his scarecrow come to life, but he wanted to imbue it with a bit of fear. So upon his journey to find a magical component, he did find this thing that radiated out like a fear aura. So he infused it into the creation of his thing, not realizing that what it actually was a necromancer's phylactery. So the necromancer was imbued into this jack-o'-lantern and then basically put a hex upon the wizard, which like knocked him out and then started taking over his tower. And so all these little like all these like little wizard contraptions started to radiate out and start causing problems in the area. And the only thing that wasn't infected was the wizard shield guardian, which attempted to go to town to get help, but can't speak. So it's like trying to mime, but it doesn't even have hands, it just has shields. So just, but eventually the whole spiel is that the party's supposed to come across this shield guardian that's causing havoc in a village, and then come across the idea of the fact that the shield guardian isn't trying to hurt them, he's trying to get them to come with. And then the adventure carries on from there. But it was a lot of fun. I love jack-o'-lantern villains.
If it had been the Adventures League group, they would have just killed it.
Probably.
Hey, no, they're not that bad.
Put it this way, I ran it for a bunch of like 11 to 13-year-olds. They figured it out. So, Adventures League players might have a chance.
Apparently, those 11 to 13-year-olds are above the curve.
Trust me, I had to really drive in good gaming mechanics into these kids. Like, trust me, they learned through the school of hard knocks not to do dumb stuff. I mean, my kids lost their character because he got arrested and it was thrown in jail. And he's like, "Can I escape?" I'm like, "No,
It's jail.
No, you're a level 3 rogue. They have way more badass people than you locked away in jail. You're not getting out. You make a roll for it? Sure. You failed. Move on. Make a new character." And so every once in a while, my other players would go and visit him in the prison. That's it.
They didn't try to get Jonathan to break him out?
No.
No? Okay.
They just moved on with their lives. Like, can't help it, buddy. Maximum security prison. We're not. Nope. You're done.
So another really cool thing about this book is Appendix D for me, where he went through and divided up all the monsters by environment. So essentially,
Always beneficial.
You can basically always beneficial, and you basically just look at the little table he has, find out like what CR you want, and there's all the monsters of that CR just listed there.
But that's fairly standard. They do that in D&D books.
Yeah, I don't know. That's like
the
2 pages.
The main monster manual breaks everything down by environment.
Does it?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
I don't
think so. I don't have it in front of me.
Maybe that was in Volos that they did the charts for that.
Sounds
it wasn't
more
Volos, yeah.
Because I do know that there is charts for like if you're in a forest, here's the chart of things you can run into.
Yeah, I think for the original monster manual, they put those charts in the Dungeon Master's Guide.
Oh,
Yes.
Maybe that was it. Okay.
Yeah.
I knew. I didn't get to pick my favorite too.
Oh,
pass
okay.
it
What
around.
are your favorites?
We were going to. I hadn't forgotten you.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Cool.
I did.
All right. So first off, my first pick is just for the art alone, and even admittedly, and some of the lore, the half white dragon Triceratops.
What page is this on? Never mind. 140. I see it.
Yeah, 139 or 140. Yes, it looks amazing. Because one, I love me some Triceratops, favorite dinosaur.
Yeah, that's a silver Triceratops with wings, with dragon wings.
Yep. And the best part is it listed as a powerful mount for essentially frost giants that can, beat it. So I wanted to run a big ass frost giant riding this thing through the air into battle. A flying frost giant on the back of a flying Triceratops. I want it.
Why play the giant when you could actually just play the half white dragon Triceratops? I mean, Council of Worms was a 2nd edition setting.
But yeah, it just looks amazing. And then on a more simple note, the Afonk. That one is the gigantic beaver.
Oh yeah, AFANC.
AFANC, Afonk, which is a gigantic beaver, essentially. Although it's listed as having the jaws and like the paws of a bear and the spinal ridges of an alligator.
That's an accurate description of the artwork.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely a monster that I would love to see, like as a new addition to the core monsters in Dungeons and Dragons. It fits right in.
It's the new owlbear.
It's also a great random encounter. You don't need a hardcore reason for it. You are near the water, but an alternative, you could write an entire adventure around these guys where they start building up a dam, and it starts to like flood an area, and the village needs you to go and save it by going and fighting a whole bunch of these things. Like, it's just a really cool monster.
You're near the water, and it thinks you're a log.
Done. And then just a quick honorable mention to the Brian Drake, only for the name. It is so easy with Drakes to go very simple with it, and they did go very simple with the other names: Desert Drake, Forest Drake, Deep Drake. I just looks like something about Brian Drake, like for like a water drake. It just seems like it's got a little bit more thought put into it. It's a great name for the aquatic drake, Brian. Love it. It's good stuff. So good props from these guys for like the names, the art, the thought put into it, the lore they bothered putting into all the different creatures. Like, nice stuff.
Yeah, that's the thing. So like with on the page, it has that Brian Drake image.
Mm-hmm.
It has a half page of lore as well, and that's something that just doesn't exist in the Monsters of the Multiverse book anymore.
It has
more.
more
The Monsters Manual had some, but like
then has like another 3rd page of the ancient Brian Drake's lair. So like, they give you a ton of stuff for this.
Like I haven't actually seen the expanded monster manuals that Dragon 9 had put out, but if they're anything like this, and you can kind of see some of the pictures of what those books look like on Dungeon Master Guild. I mean, like, I'm honestly very considering buying those and just picking them up and adding them to my collection for 5e stuff, because like this is the stuff that I need. This is the stuff that I want.
Yeah, I have the first one, and the first one was just a straight expansion of the official, the first 5e monster manual. So it's just kind of like every monster that's in the 5e monster manual, the monster manual expanded just has extra versions of them, right? And for some of them, it's kind of like in here where it's just like, okay, you have an aboleth. Okay, now you have a greater aboleth and a master aboleth, or whatever. But then it also really fleshed out a lot of the basic like humanoid monsters that really need it. So like in the 5e monster manual, you've got a goblin and a goblin boss. It's like, well, where are the rest of the goblins, right? So the monster manual expanded has the 8 or 10 different types of goblins in there.
Oh, cool.
And so I feel like it's just kind of like it's the missing part that should have been in the original monster manual.
Mm-hmm.
I highly recommend those books.
Yeah, like I'm honestly considering, like, I don't use Roll20 that much, but if I can buy all these monster manuals and start building my encounters out in Roll20, I may swap over to that, because these monsters are worth me changing VTTs to have instant access of them and to like all their tokens and all their stat blocks to run it online. Again, in person, I just need the physical books. But if I'm running it on a VTT, I may as well just go to Fantasy Grounds or go to Roll20 instead. Because I don't know if this has a Foundry extension yet, but I'll look into that.
Yeah. Well, one other thing I'll say, I
Well-
believe he is working on significant revised versions of his earlier books. I don't know whether he's actually released any of them yet, or what the timeline is for those releases. But so for those who are interested in exploring those books, it might be worth checking that out to see whether you want to buy what he already released, or wait for his re-release of those.
So there's a couple other sections to this book beyond the basic monsters that we've been talking about. They have the miscellaneous creatures and the NPC section, the non-player character section. So just kind of quickly looking through the table of contents, they've got alligator, giant alligator, dire badger, and such. I noticed that they have Gigantopithecus, which is where the Bigfoot mythos comes from. Like, it's literally, a 600-pound ape-like creature that lived hundreds of thousands of years ago.
Are you trying to tell me you don't believe in Bigfoot?
No. And then there's the Titanoboa, which, what was it? I know
it's in Florida.
Yeah, yeah. It's only a few hundred miles from where I live.
It's only about 2 hours south from where I live.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, you're actually in Florida.
Yeah.
I mean, well, yeah. I'm just waiting for Anaconda to show up and start eating boats and shit.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say a lot of the creatures that he's got in that Appendix A are, historical, megafauna, from after the time of the dinosaurs and whatnot, which I love. I love kind of the Lost World aesthetic, right? So I was geeking out looking over this appendix.
Yeah, it's fantastic. If you ever want to run just something not quite prehistoric, but prehistoric, a lot of the stuff in there is great. Or even just like the fact they have giant mantis shrimp, that terrifies me. I am not messing with I'm not messing with a tiny normal mantis shrimp. So the fact they have a giant one and a monstrous one, that's just horrifying.
I think the only thing that I would say about a lot of the things that are in his miscellaneous creatures, some of these should probably be monstrosities. Like, he has almost all of them are listed as beasts, and fair enough. The more beasts in the world are a great thing, especially because
shape-shifting for druids. Yep,
it's always beneficial to have some more. But like the hell pig is a monstrosity.
No,
that's not. It shouldn't.
That is a historical creature. The Entelodon. That's a real thing.
That's true. That's true. All right. I don't know. It seems like maybe some of these are.
I just like that I could play a druid now and become a hippopotamus.
Fair enough.
I assume, I haven't looked at the stats. Hopefully it's a low enough CR, but if it is, that's what's happening.
What if I was a gift druid?
If you're a what druid?
A gift druid.
Then you're a hippopotamus. You can become a hippopotamus.
Stats kind of suck for the hippopotamus.
It doesn't matter. It's still a hippo.
It should be better. It's one of them. Like, it's a pretty deadly creature.
But
luckily, there's the giant hippopotamus, which I guess can make up for it a little bit.
Yeah, there you go. Because hippos kill a lot of people every year.
Yeah, I would like to have seen them have a higher. I guess the bite damage is pretty decent. It's 3d8 plus 5.
Oh, that's a lot of damage.
That's the level 3. That's the challenge rating 3 for the giant.
Oh, okay.
Though the challenge rating 1, which is the generic one, is 2d8 plus 3.
That's still better than most CR1 monsters you can shapeshift.
Right.
So
any hippopotamus is going to bite a wizard in half.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
So I'm putting this picture in podcast chat. So one of my favorite games of all time is the Dark Tower board game. I think I talked about it on the podcast before. Jay, we tried to play it. My tower wasn't working at that time.
Sadly.
I'm still waiting for my Return to Dark Tower board game Kickstarter to actually send me my second edition version of the game. But anyways, the main monster in that board game was brigands. Okay, and as a giant child that I was, seeing brigands, and you see the picture there, they're kind of like pig/horsemen things that have smoke emitting from weird horn-like I don't know. I don't know how to explain them.
What the hell are you talking about?
Look at the picture in the podcast chat.
Oh, the tiny little brigands one?
Yeah.
Okay.
So that to me is what a brigand is. Whatever that monster is, that horse pig abomination, that's what a brigand is. And I know brigand has names for other things, and there's brigands in this, and I was like, please be the brigands from Dark Tower. Please have or somehow reached out into the ether, found those brigands and brought them over and created something for them. Sadly, no, they're just humans, but
which they should be, right?
Which what they should be, but those are brigands to me. Even in the dark,
They're wrong.
But even in the Dark Tower, Return of the Dark Tower game, brigands are now humanoids that just wear skull-like masks over their face.
Just sad. Real quick, the artwork for Brigand Lord, again, just holy crap, that's beautiful.
Yeah,
that is a great piece of art.
Yep. Mm-hmm. My guess would be that they just couldn't get the art. They couldn't get the rights to the original art, so they couldn't use it. I'm talking about for the Dark Tower second edition thing.
Oh yeah.
Well, yeah. There's a lot of copyright problems with Dark Tower. I'll just leave it at that.
Oh, I didn't look at these before. I didn't go through these close enough.
What?
The Pestilence Druid NPC art is again terrifying.
Yeah.
And amazing.
Yeah, that guy's just completely covered in insects.
They're crawling out of the hole in his hand, and digging up out of his flesh is just terrifying.
Going back to what Jeffrey was talking about earlier about some of the just scenic art, though, if you go down to page 247, I think it is, they're it's almost a Ravenloft piece of art. Just this creepy ass castle with bats flying around and the gigantic moon in the background.
Yeah, that's very Ravenloft.
Yeah, the jack-o'-lantern scene too stuck out for me.
Mm-hmm.
Like that piece alone. The Hell Knights, and there was the Abyssal Knights. Those artworks are just fantastic. And so is their scenic lairs. For a lot of the lairs, you seem to draw what the lair looks like, which I find fascinating.
Just so that we're not completely butt kissing, the Medusa lair art sucks.
Really?
Oh, it's if you go back to looking at is it the Medusa? No, it's the.
What page is it?
Hold on, I have to go look it up. It's the underwater monster, multiple hands and swords. It's the.
I'm sure that our podcast listeners are going to love us describing all this art to them if they can't see.
Well, no, because that's the point. When you're listening to this podcast, hopefully they went and bought the book first.
Hopefully so, because
this way they can go along with us.
If I was still running 5e, I would go purchase this book. I wouldn't buy the PDF. I would buy the physical copy of it and get it printed on demand and sent to me. But no, this is what, honestly, this is the kind of stuff that was missing for me with 5e. These are the kind of books that I like. These are the kind of books I have needs for and couldn't get. I'd never really go on DM's Guild. I wanted WotC to print these and sell them in stores, which is where I normally buy stuff. And that wasn't happening, so...
by the way, page 13.
Page what? 15 or 50?
13.
13, okay.
Because
yeah, that's a little weird looking.
That is, the background is lovely, but the character is clearly PNG pasted in there.
That's exactly what that looks like. It look
That's
the back art.
clearly what it
If they
is.
didn't have the Medusa in the artwork, it would be great.
Oh yeah, sure, but they don't. They did this nonsense instead.
So one thing I do have to add to this is that if you go to his DM's Guild page, and more specifically, you have to go to the drive-through RPG version of DM's Guild, because DM's Guild is just for official 5e material. This book is on
Mhm.
drive-through RPG, but it's all still DM's Guild. So if you go to drive-through RPG and you look at this bundle, okay, he provides you STLs for the Tarask, the Hydralisk, and the Gladison monsters.
Cool. Good
So
stuff.
if somebody wants to print them out, but yeah, that's honestly that's really how companies need to move forward with okay, here's the PDF version, here's all the VTT editions for all of our books, here's the STLs for you to print your own minis. And I know they're never going to do that, and I still love buying my little miniature boxes, but to provide a couple STLs for you to kind of build out an army with, if you like to paint
Sure.
and do that and have a 3D printer that works. Not me. I mean, people, I'm sure people would buy them.
Yeah, people who are into 3D printing would absolutely buy them. If I really collected miniatures and did that thing, I would just go buy a 3D printer because it would end up saving money in the long run.
Okay, well,
Oh, maybe
I
not.
have a 3D printer, and it's like, well, it's a hobby. You don't do it to save money. So, would it
Goo isn't cheap.
do I save money, on all the minis I print compared to if I were to buy those same minis, from a miniature company? Yeah, probably. But would I go out and buy all those minis? No, I wouldn't. I'm printing tons of minis because I've got a 3D printer and it's just too much fun.
That is a fair argument. The fact, yeah, if you were to go buy all of them, then sure, it would be an arm and a leg, and probably your first and second born, especially if it's Warhammer. But yeah, the fact is, you're just not going to buy all those minis. So instead, you're just going to spend a lot of money printing them.
Yep.
I mean,
But it sure is fun.
My Tarask and those large minis, they're $400 plus of each, brand new. Now they're in the hundreds, probably close to thousands. And they are doing something really cool right now with the miniatures. They're selling little groups of things. So you have the block of kobolds, the block of goblins, the block of ogres, and that's awesome. So if if I need to add some more goblins, I can just go buy the goblin booster box instead of opening up 1,000 bricks, and hopefully I get randomly enough goblins to fill in what I need. So
yeah.
But so I guess I think we're just over an hour here. Any final comments to this book?
About the book?
Yeah.
I mean, I keep going on about all the different cool art pieces, but honestly, just go get the book. Get the book and check it out for yourself. It's amazing. If you need fodder for making tokens in Roll20, it'll be a gigantic boon to you. You need just more monsters, it'd be great. There is no reason to not have this book. Most of it is pretty much quality from start to finish.
And when we post the podcast, we'll definitely link to it's where you can go buy it on Drive-Thru RPG to follow along. I think right now the PDF is I can find it here. It's $30.
Yep.
But you can also buy the VTT bundle, or you can buy the STL bundle just for an extra $4 for the VTT. So you get all the tokens. All of this artwork has tokens for an extra $4, or you can spend an extra $40 and get all the STLs too.
Yeah, if you're wanting another monster book, this one I would highly recommend it for 5e players or DMs.
I'd also would actually really like to see him do the opposite version of this book, where it's good guy deities and creatures. You know,
Yeah, because the
like
vast majority of things in this book are chaotic evil or
they're all evil.
Yeah, like other than maybe some of the NPCs, it's just all evil.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, that would be nice to see, the alternative form of the book. Because I kept looking at it and I'm like, all right, cool. So they did this monster. So where's, and it took me a while to realize, I'm like, wait, this is called the Deadly Denizens. It's only going to be bad guys.
Yep.
But I kept seeing like them do one side of the coin, and I would look for like the flip side of that coin, and it was always just like, damn, that's not here.
Yeah, I need all the good guy monsters so I can run my evil campaign.
I need good guy monsters for NPCs, as quest givers and stuff like that. Like, plenty of good stuff you can throw out there.
So what are we going to call it?
For evil
Dragonix's delicious deities?
Gosh, you would have to come up with some garbage. You would have to make it all D's still, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
Ugh.
Yeah. I'm not going to sit here and think on it.
Dragonix's do-gooding denizens.
That's not bad, actually.
It's not really. Jeffrey, any final comments on this?
Yeah, as everyone has said, I mean, the quality on the book, both the artwork and the monster design, just great. And again, as I say, I recommend all of his monster books. I think they're all great. I think the biggest question for me when I was looking at this is just like, why would I recommend this book over any of his other monster books, or over any monster book out there, right? There's so many monster books out there. And so for me, it's always a question is like, okay, why do we need another one, right? So, kind of the things that, really kind of stuck out for me with this book were those templates that Waples was talking about at the beginning. You've got abyssal creatures, you've got fiendish creatures, you've got half dragons, infernal creatures, and then the Vikolakas, the vampire type creatures, and just having those templates that you can slap down, and I mean, you can create whatever you need, in all these different flavors. But then, the examples that they have in this book also actually made me want to play them, right? Because then the immediate next question in my mind was like, okay, well, do I really need half dragons in my game? And then I looked at the artwork. I'm like, hell yes, I need these half dragons in my game.
I need a half dragon triceratops.
Oh,
of course I do.
Yeah,
that's right. I need Mothman in my game.
And that ultimately is for me the test of any monster book is when I start looking at these monsters, do they make me want to use them in my game? Like, do I immediately start seeing stories pop into my head of how this creature is going to fit into my adventures, and this book passes the test for me. So
any last thoughts, Waples?
No, I pretty much said my piece about it, and everyone else has kind of echoed a lot of things. Like I said, the only downside I have is just sometimes, like I said, the monsters are just beefier variants with no real flavor added. But then sometimes you get a section that has a lot of really cool extra monsters and extra types. If I were to give this a rating of how many grumpy frowns out of 5 I'd give it, I would definitely give it 4.5. And that only half a point being just the variants are cool, but they're not that cool. But still, it doesn't detract from how great the book is.
Sounds accurate.
Sure.
How many grumpy frowns do you guys give it?
Well, Panda agreed with your 4.5. I'd give it a 4, but that's specifically because it's D&D.
I give it 4.5, but it literally lose that full half point just for the Medusa lair.
Not even the Medusa lair. The Medusa in the lair.
The Medusa lair picture.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would likewise give it 4 out of 5. Again, I think it's solid. Waples, I also agree with your critique there. I think the monster design is very kind of classic 5e, right? Like, which I think is both, it's a boon and a bane, right? It's kind of, there's nothing weird and out there about the way the monsters are put together or the sorts of abilities they use. So it makes them really easy to, run. If you're used to running 5e, they're going to fit in with all the other monsters that you're using in 5e. But at the same time, if you're looking for exciting new monster mechanics, a lot of, maybe you're going to not find that in every monster in here. But again, some of them do have some spicy things in there. There's some monsters that definitely players will get into trouble. So
the beaver monster can make sonic booms with its tail.
That's fantastic.
I mean, that's pretty amazing to me.
All right, well then, 4.25 I think was the final grumpy frown average, and I guess that convenes the first official Grumpy Council.
Well, all right. Thank you all for attending this meeting. I'd slam a gavel if we had one. Meeting adjourned.
It's not a gavel size. It's just a long.
It's a ruler.
It's a big hammer we slam up against Craig's head.
Yep.
All right. Thank you guys very much, and we'll see you all next week.
Yep. Thanks, guys.
Maybe.
see you guys.
All right.
Mothman.